Improvement Pill here. Today I'm going to show you guys what my daily routine is. We spent a lot of time talking about habits in the TAMED course, and I figured it would be helpful for some of you to learn about what my current stack of habits are. More specifically, the timing and the order of which I execute them. Now, one very important thing to note is that this schedule often changes a bit. I travel a lot, so I adjust my schedule depending on where I am. For example, if I'm in Asia, I tend to wake up a lot later than if I was back in the States, and that's because the nightlife, the way people socialize in Asia is very different. People tend to stay out way later than they do back in the States. So right now I'm in Asia, and this is what my current daily routine looks like. I wake up at around 12 o'clock noon. Usually if I'm in the States, I'll wake up at around 10 a.m. Now I wake up naturally without an alarm. I'm actually against using alarms because they almost always wake you up outside of your circadian rhythm. For those of you that don't know what that is, your body sleeps in cycles of about 90 minutes, and if you wake up in the middle of one of these cycles because of an alarm, you're gonna feel extremely groggy and tired. I really don't like that, so no alarm. Moving on, the first thing I do after waking up is meditate for 10 minutes. Now I know a lot of you guys out there like to do meditation at night before you go to sleep, but what I found is that if I do that, I almost always fall asleep or doze off during my meditation session. I guess I'm more of a morning person because my mind is always sharper right after I wake up. Some of you are probably wondering what the habit loop for this habit is. Well, the cue is waking up, the routine is meditating for 10 minutes, and my reward is actually the good feeling meditation leaves me with. Because if you do meditation enough, you start to feel pretty good during your sessions. It's like a subtle joy, a subtle feeling that everything's gonna be alright. It's a powerful enough reward to fuel this habit loop, and that's my meditation habit. Now, the next thing I do is I actually answer any urgent emails or messages that I've received. I know a lot of successful people out there do this thing where they don't answer any emails until after they work, but having unanswered messages just bothers me. It makes me feel like I haven't finished the work from the previous day, so I actually can't start working until that's done. But it usually doesn't take me more than 10-15 minutes to answer any urgent emails. Next up is creative work, which I usually work on for about 1 to 2 hours. I found that my best creative work, which includes things like writing scripts for future videos, animating, outlining future courses, is done in the morning. I found that the quality of work is just generally better. Now you might be thinking, wow, only 1 to 2 hours? Isn't that very little? Well, according to research, humans can only really do about 2 to 4 hours of creative work a day before the quality drops tremendously, and that's because creative work is actually very draining. And you'll notice that a lot of other people in creative fields will tell you the same thing. There's a lot of well-known writers who admit to only writing for 1 to 2 hours a day, and I've personally found that I get drained at around the 2-hour mark. Some days it varies, but again, I don't set an alarm clock or a timer of any sort. I just let my brain flow and let my hands work until I feel like I've exhausted my creative energy. So we're about halfway through the day, and before we continue, I do want to give a quick shout out to the guys who've made this episode possible. Vincero watches. I know I said I don't use an alarm clock, but I do check the time quite often to make sure that I'm working at a good pace. And having a watch is essential for this, as well as for looking good when I'm out and about. Because if you want to look like someone of high value, it's pretty important to have a nice watch. Now, there are a lot of cookie cutter, mass-produced, low-quality watches out there flooding the market, so it's sort of hard to find a good-looking watch to add to your outfit for a good price nowadays. Vincero watches is great because they stand out, they have expensive-looking designs, and the quality is top-notch. On top of all of that, they're super affordable. I'll be honest, I've been trying them out and wearing them with some of my outfits for quite some time now, and they are often the first thing that people notice. I can't begin to tell you how many compliments I've received about these watches. They provide the look and the feel of a watch worth 10 times the price point. Now, I've managed to get Vincero to hook us up with a crazy deal. Just click on the link in the description box below to find out more about it. Okay, so let's jump back into my daily routine. So after doing creative work for about 2 hours, I take a break. I'm actually a big believer in the philosophy of work hard, play hard, and this is because I know the feeling of getting burnt out all too well. It happened to me quite a lot back in my sales days, and I know just how detrimental it is to your mental state. If you work too hard without rewarding yourself, you start to lose the motivation for your work. It gets to the point where you can't even show up to work. So it's important to take breaks if you want to be able to accomplish a lot in the long run. So what do I do? Well, it depends, but I usually sit down and watch some Netflix or play some games or even just surf the web for about an hour or so. Again, I don't really time myself, I sort of let things flow naturally, but I usually try to end my break at around 3:30 to 4 p.m. Once I feel like I've gotten sufficient rest, I go back to doing some work. But this time it's a little bit different. See, there are two types of work that I usually do. Creative work, which we mentioned before, and good old-fashioned work. Work is work that doesn't require much thinking, just a lot of doing. An example of this is editing audio for my videos. Let's say I'm working on a new video that's supposed to be 5 or 6 minutes long. After recording the audio for it, I usually end up with about 10 to 15 minutes of raw, unedited audio because I often do many takes for every line, trying to get things as close to perfection as possible. So what I have to do is go through all 15 minutes and edit out all of the parts that I don't like. Edit out all of the pauses and the mistakes. And this is quite honestly the most boring, monotonous part of my job in regards to making videos. It doesn't require much brain power at all, just a lot of time. Editing 15 minutes of raw audio takes me about 1 to 2 hours of work to finish. Some of you are probably wondering, Improvement Pill, how come you don't outsource this work? Well, it's actually because it's quite hard to find someone who is as picky as I am in regards to audio quality. I've yet to find someone who can edit audio to my liking. But hey, if you like to try, or if you know someone who has a good ear, please email me at improvementpill@gmail.com. Alright, so I do work until 5 or 6 p.m. depending on the day, because for 4 days every week at around 5 p.m. I hit the gym. I'm currently doing a top-bottom rest workout routine. That's 2 days of working out my top and 2 days of working out my bottom with 3 days of rest sprinkled in between. To make this time even more efficient, I listen to audiobooks while walking to the gym and during my workout. So you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned eating yet, and that's because I actually don't eat until I finish working out, which is at around 6 o'clock p.m. I'm currently doing intermittent fasting, which is essentially only eating within an 8-hour window. There are tons of benefits to this eating methodology. For those of you who are interested in learning more about the benefits of intermittent fasting, there's a link to one of my older videos on the subject in the description box below. During my meal, I will continue to listen to audiobooks. I usually get a good 2 to 3 hours of listening done every single day because of this schedule, which allows me to finish about 1 book per week. After eating, I get back to work. Again, just work, not any sort of creative work. I'll do this for another 1 to 2 hours depending on what my deadlines look like, and that's it. At this point in time, it's usually about 8 to 9 p.m. and I call it a day. No more work for me. From here on out, it's all about relaxation. I usually watch some Netflix, play some music and dance a bit, and when it's late enough, I'll go out and socialize, make some new friends, see some old ones, maybe go clubbing. It really depends on what I feel like doing. This goes on until about 3 o'clock when I naturally feel myself getting tired and I head back home to sleep. And that's it. This is what my daily schedule currently looks like. A good balance of work, maintaining my health, educating myself, relaxation, and socializing. I hope that this information was valuable to some of you, and I hope that this helps you create your own daily routine. Because by having some sort of routine, just by having some level of expectation of yourself every day, allows you to accomplish a lot more than usual. People with daily routines get 10 times more done than people who don't have one. Alright? Besides that, guys, stay tuned.